Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar for Business Recovery Services. Just do a quick preamble on this one to start things off, which is the background to this is we've got a partial relaxation in rules for in relation to coronavirus, and the government is suggesting we're going to allow people to return to work. And certainly if they can't work from home, and again, only to run to work if it's only safe to do so. So from a manufacturing point of view, that brings about quite a few questions on how we're actually going to handle this one. New challenges as to sort of business owners who need to ensure the business premises are safe. In addition, the government has encouraged people to avoid public transport, use their own cars, walk or cycle. There's arrangements for working with clients and availability of PPE, many other issues as well. So whether businesses are expecting large numbers of staff return to work for the first time, there's lockdown begun, or there's going to be a reopening for the first time, it's likely that many businesses are going to have lots of questions. So hopefully this morning I'm going to be trying to answer some of those ones. And so this is the part of the Here for Business campaign that the growth company is posting, and looking at sort of basically some of the challenges that sort of coronaviruses are posing. This is the first webinar from today, and it's going to focus on the specific circumstances that are now being faced by people employing staff within factories and manufacturing plants and warehouses. So joining me today for the webinar is Richard Hagan from Crystal Doors, Andrea Huff from ATEC Engineering Solutions, Graham Stubbs from the Dean Group, Andrea Peters who's from Siemens Digital. Could I sort of first of all ask everyone to do a quick introduction to themselves? So start off, Richard, could you do a quick introduction about Crystal Doors and your work there?
Yeah, certainly. Crystal Doors manufactures vinyl wrap doors for kitchens, bedrooms and bathrooms. However, when the lockdown occurred, we have one of our healthcare companies who supplied a lot for the Nightingales. So we ended up running 24/7 on 2 shifts, producing over 6,000 tops for the hospitals around the country. We've now finished that, and now we're obviously having to try and work out how do we get back to work.
Okay. Andrea?
Hi, Andrea Hoff. I'm Managing Director of ATEC Engineering Solutions based in Worsley. We've been open throughout the coronavirus. We've had people working from home, and then we're now just looking at how to bring those people back in.
Thanks. And Graham, thanks. Same question to you.
Hi, my name's Graham Stubbs. I'm the Managing Director at Dean Group. We've been operating for the last 6 weeks. We're an investment casting company. Our components go to every industry, really. We've currently got 50% of the team in, 25% on furlough and 25% working from home.
And Andrew?
Oh, hi there, everybody. I'm Andrew Peters. I'm the Managing Director of Siemens in Congleton, which is South Manchester. And like Andrea, we've been working through the last 8 weeks during COVID and looking forward to taking part in this webinar.
Thank you very much. And I see we've been joined by Dave Harrison at last. Hi, Dave.
Good afternoon. Sorry, technical difficulties there. Eventually,
minor technical issues, but we're here and running now. So yeah,
that just added a level of stress that you don't need when you're coming on stage to do something. Believe me. Anyway,
so Dave, you're from Central Assessment. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah. So. Career history in production and quality, and Centre for Assessment, we are a UCAS accredited certification body against a range of standards. Ones that are particularly relevant are ISOs in relation to health and safety, so ISO 45001 and its predecessor BS 18001. So we're going out live on site auditing clients in a small amount of cases, but doing remote audits as well.
Yeah, obviously I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Jeff Crossley, who is the senior manufacturer advisor for the Greater Manchester Growth Company, who we go out talking to manufacturers, supporting them on different manufacturing things, different manufacturing processes. So that's where we are. What I'd like to do is just run through sort of some questions I've got and present a question to each one of you in turn, and then from then work backwards from that and certainly everyone can jump in with different aspects of different other questions, different sort of thoughts on the subject. So the first one is really sort of the first bit of obvious one of everything that everyone's going to be looking at. This one to Andrea is when you're actually beginning to look back at bringing people back into work. What are the first initial sort of hygiene and PPE situations that you've had to consider?
Well, like Peter, we've been open all the way through. So we've done a lot of work as the weeks have gone on to make sure that we have enough space. So I think, like one of the other speakers, split our workforce. So we've only had half our people in. We've not felt the need to have to use any additional PPE because we have enough space to be able to distance ourselves. It has been difficult because I think as time's gone on, people have forgotten that they're supposed to be 2 meters apart, and we've tried to create a very safe environment there. So other than the normal PPE, we've just stuck to the safe distancing, split tea breaks. We've not had to do a double shift yet, but I envisage that if we're bringing more people back, we're going to have to go to shift work now.
Yeah. How do you get around that situation of people forgetting that they should be distancing and sort of enforcing that you will use this, you will to keep separated? But it's very easy to forget.
Yeah, I mean, we've done all the posting. We obviously did all of our risk assessments very early on in this process, and now that the government is bringing out more sort of specific risk assessments, we're going back through those. But it's just reminding people. It's trying to get everybody to just keep reminding each other, but not to fall out about it. We were doing in the background, both my family actually at home, but work as well. We were making visors. So we've issued visors to everybody as well and said if anybody feels uncomfortable, they can use the visor. Because being a manufacturing facility, when our engineers go out onto the shop floor to an operator to try and resolve a problem, that's where we were experiencing the difficulty of somebody looking over somebody's shoulder. So we've tried not to have to introduce PPE because of all the confusion about what grade you should have, what level of protection that gives people. And will it actually weaken that resolve to stay 2 meters apart? So we've done it differently. We've tried to use technology a little bit more. So we've got body cams now so that we can try and get people to show each other what the problems are from the desk rather than have an engineer over the shoulder. So we've pretty much tried to stay away from PPE, additional PPE, just because we didn't feel in control of it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that interesting bit of that combination of like sort of helping people have good sense and sort of good behaviours rather than anything else.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Anyone else has had any problems with that sort of behavioural side of things?
We tried to have somebody come in and do the temperature check at the start of the shift.
Yeah.
So we staggered all the shifts, and then we did a temperature check when people arrived, and the person asks is the person okay, or the family okay. So we were trying to make sure that people were right before they came into the building.
Mm-hmm.
It was that first contact before somebody actually came onto shift we thought was quite important.
Yeah.
We've only then insisted on the surgical masks and gloves when people are in common areas, and that's not necessarily to protect the person, it's to stop them if they're asymptomatic of spreading anything around.
Yeah.
But once they're on the job, it's just their normal PPE. If they're in their own area and they're working in their own area 2 meters away from everybody, we haven't made them wear additional PPE.
Yeah.
It's just in the common areas that we've asked them to put the masks on.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, sort of you being a foundry, everyone's well aware of PPE to start off with.
Yes, but it's still quite difficult. You still have to remind people. It's quite funny when they first started off, everybody was very, very nervous. But once they got used to doing the job, people quickly forgot. It was really funny. They'd be really nervous of the first couple of days and do it with the letter of the law. But as soon as they got used to being back in work, they'd go and talk to the colleague or the friend, and they'd be, next thing you know, they're a metre apart.
Yeah,
we're constantly going around reminding people. They just become really comfortable with the environment again.
Yeah, reverting to norm, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget that sort of keep the space, keep the distance, and Okay. Andrew, do you have any sort of have you had to work on shifts?
I think from our side, maybe more of a general commentary. What we found over the last 8 weeks is the narrative has been changing, and we've all been learning. So one of the keys for us has been daily communication with our shop floor in terms of newsletters and daily walkarounds with the shop floor to try and unlearn some of the habits of, as the previous speakers have said, it's so easy to get into. So what we're asking people to do as part of this unlearning of habits is to have the ownership culture and sensitivities to pull people up themselves and say, look, even in a joking way, that's not okay, because if you try and create a command control sort of policing approach for hundreds of people, that's really difficult to do. So we've invested time to try and get sort of the culture to each other up in a safe environment. Not easy to do, but that's been an important approach, as well as this inner void. Leadership visibility is incredibly important, and making sure we had our first COVID case last week, and it was making sure that we had leadership behaviours that were all about being calm and knowing exactly what you wanted to do before you get the first case, so that you're in control. So we did a lot of contingency and scenario planning, and the 8-week period I talked about was when the pandemic was in its sort of R=3 phase. The discussions we were having were about closing the factory and deep cleans if we were to get a COVID case. Then over that period of time, the government guidance has changed, and the situation has actually changed in terms of the reproduction factor, and we're now very much in a case of segregating. So one of the big tasks we've put in place is under the banner of discrete zoning. So trying to keep teams and groups of teams apart, so that if you do get a case, you're not into, as Joe Blogg's been around the factory with 50 different people. So thinking about the layout of your factory and applying that.
We've done the same, trying to get smaller pods that come together, eat together, work together, and then if you've got a problem, you try and keep it in that smaller pod.
And how have you managed that on levels of key skills? I think if you've got one pod, so to speak, with a key skill in it, if that pod disappears, how do you manage the skills there?
Some of it we haven't been able to do, so we don't accept that we'd lose some of the factory for a period of time. Others we've tried to put the skill onto the second shift.
Andrew, have you had to go to a different shift pattern? I think Andrew's frozen there. So.
No.
Andrew, if you can hear us, would you like to log yourself back in? Andrea.
We've not had to do shift patterns yet, but we're going to have to look at that if we want to bring more people back on site, I think.
And obviously, have you looked at skills matrices or anything else to understand the skills basis you need?
Yes, we did that initially to determine who could work from home and who needed to be in the factory. And also, because we stayed open from day one, we initially furloughed people who still had somebody at home who was either a key worker or somebody else who was going out to work themselves, to try and keep the business safe. But we had to do that. We had to also look what skills we needed in and whether we could split them, because we're only a small manufacturer. We only have 42 people employed, 20 odd on the shop floor. So it is quite difficult, the smaller you are, to try and sort of duplicate that resource, really. It's worked okay. It's we still have 8 people, and most of those are shop floor people because we can't accommodate them for the size, to spread out. But there's not enough of them to go on to a double shift just yet.
We've put some people that maybe their partner is clinically extremely vulnerable, and we've got only about 4 or 5 people on the second shift, so it's easier to put those type of people onto the second shift because they're less contact with anybody else. So we've tried to isolate them more in that way.
Richard, I think you were mentioning previously about factory layout. Have you had any change on factory layout?
The first one is exactly what Andrew said, is this daily interaction with all your employees. is different employees have different levels of what Graham was saying is some are shielded, some have got people that if they do catch the COVID-19, they're going to have serious problems.
Yeah.
Put them onto a more isolated area. From our point of view is we've got the sanitisation units, we've got the masks, we've got the gloves, we've signed everybody up so they've got their own, so you don't accidentally pick up somebody else's gloves. We've got them to do their own cleaning in place. We've got the hospital bleach bombs that we put in so we can then do our own deep clean all the time. Leaving doors open is a classic one, is we've had to force all the doors open, so therefore nobody's touching the handles.
Yeah.
Like the canteen, there's 2 doors. That's the door to go in, that's the door to go out, and then separated it to make sure that there's the 2 metre distance. 2 metre distance from the smoking shelter. Other companies have sort of said they don't want car sharing, but you can't stop what people are going to do. If 2 people are coming in on a car, they'll probably just one person will drive in and the other person will walk the extra 50 metres. To put things that are practical, that each employee feels comfortable. And I think the standard that every company needs to get to is when all the employees feel whatever methods and systems that we put in place is comfortable for those employees. For us, we went to Amari Plastics and bought 10 sheets of 6mm Perspex and then made a letterbox out of it. The difficulty that we've got is the face-to-face. But face-to-face, you either need to wear masks, which is what we've got when we've got clients to come in to see the factory, or now we pass pieces of paper between a clear sheet of acetate so they can see each other face-to-face, and then it's only what piece of the paper they push through the letterbox to each other. So it's just looking different methods, but making sure that all employees feel comfortable working in a safe environment.
Yeah, it's interesting that sort of nobody as yet has said they've gone down the lines of say what the common thing you say on building sites, as in no hard hat, no job. Everyone seems to be doing it sort of very sort of persuasion rather than enforcement.
I think you work with everybody, you talk to them, and you take a harder approach when finally when you have to. But we haven't got to that stage. Yeah.
I think it's very, very obvious that we're very quickly getting to the convincing stage, how people feel about it, and it begins to be more of a cultural question than any sort of enforcement. Is that something then would like to jump in on?
Yeah, I think you're right with the culture. I mean, a couple of things, easy things that we did that took us 2 weeks to realise that we thought that they were easy, but they built some confidence, is making sure no one enters the building or leaves the building without sanitizer stations outside the building. So ensuring that you've got basic solutions that are visible and build confidence. And then also 2 or 3 hand gels each for every person, because we had in Congleton one of the lower level risks, but is perceived as quite a high risk, is transmission of the virus through the passing of materials. So giving personal ownership to people with 2 or 3 small sanitizers they can carry around with them, in addition to the sanitizer stations, was important. Again, buying snooks from a Siemens point of view, something that we can give them outside of work for face coverings when that came in. So reinforcing culture by demonstrating that you've thought ahead and you care about thinking ahead, not just talking about government guidance all the time.
If I could just support that, where we're coming from, and we've produced a free risk assessment guide. It is about risk, as you mentioned there, and it's about understanding for each company or organisation what goes on in their workplace and where things start. And if you've been out of work and not operating, then there are some sort of pre-start things that you need to look at. And carrying out the risk assessment is one of them. It may be, some kind of deep cleaning or cleaning of all the workstations. It may be about marking out those areas, particularly common areas and welfare facilities, to make sure you've got gaps, whether it's lines on the floor, whatever you've got, as well as support and training people to ensure that they understand that the new culture, the new way of working that you're heading for, because it will be different. And, you know, agree with all the mitigating actions people have talked about, and there's many more too, but it is important for each organisation to review their own workplace, not just management, but to consult and involve your team members, your staff, your employees when you're doing that, because you want them on side. And I see we've got a question there about comfort level of people. For me, that is a bit of a touchy-feely thing. It is about engaging with people, as you've been talking about there, regular communication, speak to the people every day, checking in with them, and about the communication, how they feel, how do they understand what it is you're doing, and to make sure that, you know, the actions are all agreed.
On the comfort level one, sorry, we've put up a board, not for COVID, but just next to the canteen with a question every week with a red, amber, green counter option and a comments option, and you get fast feedback from people walking to the restaurant and what they think of what you're doing really quickly and really visibly.
Yeah, we've done very similar, Andrew. We've put some boards up where we just ask people to put sticky notes on how they're feeling today. Is there anything they're worried about? We have our little twice weekly Cobra meeting with our little factory team, and they give us some feedback. And quite often it's a reaction to something that was in the paper the day before, and they just want some reassurances. But we also picking up on something that you said before, on bringing people back into work now. We've got a whole little process together to make sure that they fully understand before they come back in the changes that we've put in place and the new rules that they've got to work to. Because I think maybe Andrew or one of the others said before, it's really difficult to make sure that people stick to the rules. So you've got to try and convince, you've got to try and educate them that this is the new way of working. So the sanitizers outside, the cleaning your own area before you start, after you've finished. And because we do have the space to spread out, they've taken responsibility for their own areas. So all of our meetings are from our desks now. We don't get together in any groups. But bringing people back has been key to us to make sure that they don't disrupt what we've put in place whilst they're working from home.
Yeah, bring them back into the culture. Greg, are you desperate to jump in?
One thing we did do was we got the team to take videos of what it was like coming to work. So one of the guys that came to work did a video of going for a brew stop, a video of leaving the company. So there was like 3 or 4 short videos. Yeah. We sent those to the people before they came into work, so they could actually see what it was like before they came in the premises. At least they could, and it was done by their colleagues. It wasn't done by, I think I did the last one. Yeah. But a lot of them were done by their teammates.
It's brilliant, isn't it? It's that sort of to that hearts and mind things again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just want to remind people who are watching, they can send in questions. We had one question here, which is a very specific one: is how do you measure the employee comfort level? I think we've had 2 examples there. Graham, I think you had some issues with comfort levels of employees. Do you want to talk quick?
Well, we've had problems where people have been unhappy, but it's a case of just talking to them really and explaining why. We've tried to make sure, certainly as a senior management team, that when people leave the building, we're regularly talking to people. Yeah. Everybody said really it's communication. It's regular communication, nipping things in the bud before they become an issue. It's talking quickly. Yeah. It blows up where somebody might have had a problem or somebody knows somebody's got COVID. It changes really, really fast with the team, and it's been able to talk to people really quickly and answer the questions. And sometimes they're genuine concerns and we have to do something different.
Yeah, a genuine concern is any concern they have, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. It's that sort of understanding that they have a worry.
Yeah, and discuss it quickly.
Andrew, go on.
Yeah, I mean, another reflection we've made is whether this COVID topic reduces in the next few months. We've made as a management team a conclusion that we're probably going to be in this working environment for the next couple of years or longer because of another pandemic. So when you look at your manufacturing solutions as a leadership team from a culture point of view, you've got an option. You can either look at it from the point of view of government guidance and minimum levels of manufacturing operations and zoning, or you can say we've got an ambition to make it as safe as reasonably practical, and therefore we've spent the last 25 years leaning on manufacturing solutions. So a lot of the equipment is close by, and we've got a couple of cases where people are working back to back within the confines of the 2 meters, which meets the government guidance, but from a culture, a values point of view, the leadership team are saying we're not comfortable with that maintaining. So we're looking to redesign and invest money to make our facility for the next couple of years more pandemic compliant, if you like. Now, that's a decision that you can make or may not make, and I appreciate different size of companies, that there's different challenges, but that's something in your own hands to decide on which you wish to do, which is government guidance, or if you've got some, I'll call them pinch points, do you want to do something different? And that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Go for it, Tom.
I think this is a good introduction to the Made Smarter, and the same with Peter's question regarding productivity. Crystal Doors invested in a nesting cell, and those two were running 24/7, but nobody needs to touch them. You put a packer board on and then just leave them to run. So productivity was at absolute maximum whilst we were producing just one product. The other one is we brought the spray robot. Once again, the skills level to just program it up is very, very high, but to run it 24 hours a day, no difficulties whatsoever, one employee. So from this, to get the resilience that we're asking about and to increase the productivity, it really is address the Made Smarter and find out what in your workplace are the options to be able to get the productivity up, to be able to take on new assets, which are going to give you the resilience and the productivity that you want in the future.
We've really had that two paths there, haven't we? One is using existing lean manufacturing sort of rules and principles to actually sort of separate man and machine, and actually the second one is bringing in the automation to sort of support the actual manufacture. Has anyone actually considered looking at the automation and specific sort of new investment in automation? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. In our process, we've got, for those on the webinar who are not familiar with the business, we make electronic products, and one of the process areas is where we populate printed circuit boards with large components that can't be placed by a surface mount pick and place machine. Okay. So we call this through hole assembly, where you've got operators picking up electronic components and populating them. By investing in new technologies, rather like the last example, that will remove one of our pinch bottleneck areas and also increase productivity. So it's forced us, and it's made us think about accelerating the investments to kill two birds with one stone, if you like.
Yeah. And it's interesting that sort of in some ways, some companies have said to us, we've actually been forced to sort of adopt more lean practices straight away. And actually, Andrea.
Yeah, we've just done for the first time our AS 9100 audit by Zoom, which was hard over 3 days. But one of the results of that is that we've realised there are certain areas of the business where we haven't introduced any technology. We're not using data very well. And one particular area is in our plant maintenance, where we realised trying to do his sort of feedback to the auditors. His system isn't on our company network. He still keeps everything in logbooks. You know, he's tucked away in that corner, kept his head down, and this sort of data transformation that we've been doing with Made Smarter. So I think there are lots of things that businesses have had to do differently, and it is a change of culture and a change of thinking. But I'm sure there's many business owners would agree that it's also given us many opportunities to improve. And I think now will be going forward is how many of us actually improve the areas that we've identified, and we don't, in our new norm, forget those things. But it's definitely been an eye-opener for us who are quite a traditional business, the amount of stuff that you can do electronically if you put some thought into it.
Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, a good tip, I think, for business owners is go public on what you want to do, because when you make a public commitment to do something, you're less likely to change your mind in a few months. So
Yeah.
really be visible in what you're doing. And it certainly held me to account in the last few years. So when you know something is right and you're going to do it, then go public, because then your staff will hold you do it rather than changing your mind after a few months.
I don't have to introduce any new communication systems that didn't have before. So different ways of communicating with staff, and sort of, I mean, we've got some staff at home, some staff on furlough, some staff in the factory. How do you keep that consistency of communications going across?
Sorry, is that a question for me?
Yeah, go for it.
No, right, okay, yeah. So on the working from home topic, we recognised early on that there are a number of people who work from home and live alone.
Yeah.
So really important for mental health point of view, and also communication. So we have a daily update at 9:30 with all the teams, and that's just a check-in to make sure everybody is doing okay.
Is that on Skype?
And we have
on Skype or something?
Yeah. On our we're using Teams or a Siemens Till circuit. Then every Friday we have a leadership sort of quadrant like this, where 4 people talk about a different topic, whether it's return to work or what it's like working from home.
Yeah.
And then we have this daily printout in the canteen, where people have said that they're really valuing the communication in a void, so they're seeing the information, and that's just a simple daily newsletter. And really important is, for instance, taking the time for the office-based people at home to draw some pictures and say thank you to the people working on the shop floor, because there's been a bit of, I'm sure with all of us on the call, them and us.
Yeah.
So we're given an extra day's holiday at Christmas, some vouchers, because it's a tricky one to reward shop floor and not everybody. So we're rewarding everybody with extra days holiday and things, because we can. We can choose not to, but we can. And then we're rewarding people on the shop floor with some champions vouchers for their extra special efforts keeping the factory going, because without them we'd be dead. So being active in terms of recognition for what people have done with tangible mechanisms.
Okay. Richard, do you have any communications hints, tips?
Yes, the people on furlough are obviously in the dark. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what the new workplace is going to be like, and it's keeping the communication with them. I've sent three letters out to sort of say where we are with the updates. We've had an excellent article written regarding what we did with the overbed tops, and that's been sent to them. The main one is what Andrew's saying, is we've offered a well-being voucher of £200 to all employees, because it is the mental strain that everybody in the UK and everyone around the world has had to get to grips with, what is evolving with this pandemic, with everybody's personal life, with everybody's work life. And it's a case of supporting each other, talking to each other, and it is the soft emotions that we're having to deal with. Normally in the past is business ran as normal, bosses would come out with a new policy and everyone would follow it. Where now it's almost, we're asking them, how do we want the policy to be written? What is it that's going to satisfy you? What is it that's going to make both of us? But from a leadership point of view, this is the best way forward, which is to have them create what they're then going to adopt. Because you can't tell them 2 meters if they're not going to adopt it.
Yeah, they've got to believe in it as well. Yeah. Andrew, do you want to jump in?
I mean, there's a lot of research, and I speak to a lot of companies. 95% of the culture at any location is down to the leadership at that location. So it's not something that be subcontracted. If you walk into a facility and it's not got the culture that you desire, the answer is it's the people on the call here that are responsible. That's the bottom line. It's all about engagement with your staff and the leadership behaviours that you promote.
Absolutely, on sort of David, I'd like to bring you in at some stage. Sort of now, it would be good to go now. You're working on actual risk assessments and supporting advice for risk assessments people. Do you want to have a quick conversation about how you're going about your risk assessments, or suggesting we'll go about risk assessments?
Well, yeah, we've offered a free risk assessment document that people can download from the Growth Hub's website. There's a good link there for anyone to go, and a guidance document. And it's got a number of sections. There's a generic section that could cover almost any industry. And then at the moment, we've got for the 8 settings as advised by the government on their website. So if you take the factories and plant one, I get a bit of feedback here. I hope you guys can hear me okay.
I think you're getting a little bit of, I think you're a little bit loose connection there.
Yeah, just wiggled it a little bit.
I think you're better now.
Yeah, so obviously, as I was mentioning before, from getting people back into work to carry out a risk assessment and look at the circumstances, not forgetting to consult with people. It's all about, well, how can you minimize the risk or mitigate the risks that you've got if they're relevant in your workplace? So some really good examples that have been given so far. Maximize working from home, putting screens up 2 meters away, back to back. But not forgetting looking at things like the travel to work for your teams too. And arrival, are there sort of common areas? Are there clocking in areas? Does everybody come through one little gateway and they're all touching it? So you've got things like your sanitizers. You've got information that's up perhaps on boards. We're talking about culture of change there. How do you, with a small p, police that or encourage people to to behave differently? You can't just tell them once and it's going to happen. You're going to have to keep on top of it, keep talking to people. I like the one about encouraging colleagues to challenge others as well. That's a really good thing to do, because it's down to everybody. It's not just down to management and business owners. It's up to everybody to be involved to make things happen. There's been, obviously the workplace and workstations would be looked at, has been mentioned there. Working patterns, shifts have been mentioned. Perhaps I like those little pods idea as well, where you've got small groups of people work together regularly, and you're not sort of mixing up with everyone else in the workplace all of the time. And that might mean customers too. So we were on a call earlier today about people perhaps buying premises, and there was maybe a smaller team than would be normally the case that went out to visit people, and keeping it to where necessary. If you can, right now, keep it remote. An important point to make, I think Andrew made there earlier, is let's not slip by the fact that this is a pandemic and not many people had one on their business continuity plan. There's going to be more. We don't know when, we don't know what, but there will be more, and we're still trying to manage through this one. So these things that we're doing now are not just going to be a one-off for this current situation. So what do we do in emergency situations? If we get somebody there, evac chairs, dealing with those kinds of equipment, might be sort of not that regular, but you still need to have in mind, covering in your risk assessment, how we deal with those. Encouraging people who are exposed to somebody who's been diagnosed or close to or have vulnerable members of their family in their household, they may need to behave differently, may need different patterns and different support. And I think, one thing we were talking about very vaguely is that pastoral care. Mental Health Week, there's lots of people really suffering badly from working at home or not being in work. So it really is important to keep them in the loop and to keep them on board. So that's a sort of brief insight. There are lots and lots of things. I will say, look, it's a free tool. Once again, download it, have a look at it. When you've done it, there's there's a link to the government website, which has got a lot more information. You can go on there and download what the government calls a poster. It's basically like a self-checklist tick and signing by you as MD or your health and safety person to say that you've complied with the guidance, you've done a lot of things. You can send that to your staff, you can stick it up in your windows, or you can push it to your customers too. Because it just
and we have that download link available at the end, don't we?
I think so.
Yes, well, I hope we do anyway.
Yeah. Well,
yes, we do.
We can get it out to people if they haven't.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Okay. Has anyone been sort of on the actual operations side of things? Has anyone feel they're going to be impacted by the 14-day quarantine currently? the sort of people coming back from other countries and having to sort of cross borders? Is anyone still working overseas, or has anyone had a problem with that yet? Or
it was in the early days for us, and then obviously with the restrictions, travel just stopped within a few weeks.
Yeah,
we had it early days. I had to self-quarantine for 14 days. We've had one member of staff last couple of weeks that's had to self-quarantine for 14 days because his wife had COVID. He's just come back to work today.
Yeah. Any problems of the having people on site as well that you don't know, as in sort of it could be maintenance issues, or sort of having sort of people deliveries, that sort of any questions, any sort of insight to that?
I think it's carefully controlled. It's by invitation. They follow the same procedures that the staff do. We temperature check them. We risk assess it. We just minimise contact, and it's got to be there for a very specific reason.
Yeah.
We can't do it another way. So, it's a key piece of plant that's broken down, and we're having to get a specialist in.
Yeah.
But we then try and, in our circumstances, we try and get them to come in on a 210 shift where we've got a lot less people.
Yeah. So less people, they come in to do the job and get out again quickly. Yeah.
And it's isolated. It's really, as part of the toolbox talk, we assess the risk and what they're going to do and where they're going to be.
Yeah. And is that done before they sort of arrive on site, as in over the phone, or?
A bit of both. We fill the questionnaire in and get them to fill it in, but sometimes the tradesman that turns up is probably not the same as the person that's quoted it. So you sit down with the person that's quoted, the person arrived, and you go through it in detail before they even.
Yeah. Okay. I think you've dropped out as well there, Graham. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. That is, thanks. Yeah. I think we're probably sort of coming to wrapping this up now. So what I was going to do is, I think we'll do a quick sort of thank you to everybody. But before I sort of go on to that one, we'll just do a quick round for everybody of what would be your top tip for sort of this situation currently from a manufacturing standpoint. So, Andrea, would you like to go first? Just sort of make it difficult for you. So what's your top tip for current manufacturing in these circumstances?
I think probably, like we've all said, it's just communicate. And I think you have to keep all of your three sections of people, on-site workers, home workers and furlough, all in the loop, all up to date on normal business stuff, how we're doing each month, how we're doing with our forecasts and our budgeting. So yeah, just communicate.
Okay. Graham, same question to you.
I think it's involve the team. You've got to share this. You can't do it on your own. It's a team effort. We're in it together. How are we collectively going to respond?
Andrew?
Yeah, I think I agree with the other speakers. Also about being consistent and calm from a leadership behaviour, because lots of people are looking at you, and where there's worry and anxiety, there is a temptation for perhaps leaders to move into that area as well with their behaviours. So really being self-aware of your own behaviours, and I think that would be my leadership tip. Yeah,
the anxiety is there all the time, isn't it? As in sort of, and it's your own personal anxiety about your family that can come across quite easily. So Richard.
I think it's all your stakeholders. It's your customers that you need to be engaging with and communicating, and your suppliers. It's absolutely everybody. And it's having that confidence to be telling everybody the same story all the time to instill that confidence within everybody that you engage with.
And that really communicating with your suppliers as well, as in, this is what we're doing, this is what we have, must have it. Yeah. Okay. David?
I just really want to agree with what Richard said. It's all about reassurance. My one was involve everybody, but is bang on that it's about customers as well as your staff and employees, just to make sure that everybody's on board with all the communications and they've got their say into making it happen with what you do. Buy-in. Yeah. That's what you need, is buy-in.
Brilliant. Okay. So I think sort of surprisingly, well, unsurprisingly, I think we've all agreed that it's, hearts, minds and culture is the key to all this all the time. Getting people to actually understand and work with themselves rather than, any sort of, big sticker, it's more carrots. So, yeah. Okay, so from that one, I'd like to wrap up. So I'd like to thank everyone for today. please please share the link to to the other webinars that we've got. It is the first of the series of webinars on this subject, so on this the COVID subject. So please share the link share the links to the other subjects. Thanks for everyone for being here. We've got other webinars scheduled for support for Mental Health Week, hospitality, retail leisure sector, and then disability confident. So big thanks to everyone. The links are up there at the end, and hope to see you all soon on the side of the COVID. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.